A rare sleeper shark has been filmed on camera for the first time, swimming in water around Antarctica. Australian researchers say they haven't been able to find records of any other shark in the Antarctic Ocean. It's believed warmer seas may be the reason for sharks travelling to the southern hemisphere's colder waters.
For generations, scientists believed Antarctica's frozen waters formed an unbreakable barrier, sealing the continent away from every known shark species. That certainty fractured the moment a lone shape drifted into view, forcing researchers to confront a truth that challenged their deepest assumptions and raised a larger question about what else has already crossed that line. That was never meant to hold. For more than a century, the idea that sharks could not survive in Antarctic waters shaped scientific thinking because researchers believed the region's near-freezing temperatures imposed physiological limits that no elasmo branch could overcome. This assumption became so deeply entrenched that it influenced expedition planning, marine models, and even the way students were taught to imagine the Southern Ocean. Each new survey reinforced the belief, as decades of submersible footage revealed fish, invertebrates, and drifting ice, but never the silhouette of a shark gliding through the cold. Scientists trusted the data because the explanation seemed so intuitively correct, since fish blood typically freezes at these temperatures and complex metabolic systems fail long before reaching such limits. As the 20th century progressed, technological improvements allowed researchers to map deeper terrain and probe more remote canyons. Yet the absence persisted, which strengthened the notion that nature had drawn a definitive boundary. The Southern Ocean was treated almost like a biological sanctuary, separated by a thermal barricade that appeared absolute. Studies described it as a domain where only specially adapted species could endure, leading many to view the region as one of the last predictable ecosystems. When a new generation of deep-sea teams prepared to revisit these waters with more advanced tools, they carried that confidence with them, unaware that the foundation of the rule they trusted was already beginning to weaken. Into the cold unknown. When the Minderoo UWA research team set out toward the South Shetland Islands, they expected another routine survey of a region long considered too inhospitable for complex predators, because earlier missions had produced consistent evidence that only slow-moving, cold-adapted species could inhabit these depths. The expedition relied on a new generation of baited camera systems, designed to withstand intense pressure, limited light, and turbulent currents, allowing researchers to explore terrain that had remained largely unrecorded. As the equipment descended, the monitors displayed drifting particles, distant shadows, and the muted blue-gray haze that typically defines the Antarctic shelf, which gave the team little reason to anticipate anything unusual. While the camera settled near the seafloor, the researchers watched for signs of scavengers normally drawn to the bait, expecting to document species already cataloged in earlier studies. The surrounding water measured barely above the freezing point of blood, creating an environment that had historically discouraged expectations of large vertebrates. However, as the light slowly widened across the frame, a movement emerged from the darker margin of view, revealing a shape that appeared heavier and more deliberate than anything commonly found in this habitat. The team leaned toward the screens in disbelief, because the outline resembled a shark, a creature presumed incapable of entering these waters. The moment the animal's eye caught the faint glow of the camera, the expedition's assumptions shifted, since its presence implied an entirely different understanding of how predators navigate thermal boundaries. The discovery did not simply provide a rare sighting, it initiated a reevaluation of long-standing biological expectations, setting the stage for a deeper investigation into the ghost-like predator now moving through a realm once thought unreachable. The biology of a ghost predator. The shark moving across the camera frame displayed the slow, deliberate motion characteristic of sleeper sharks, whose physiology allows them to endure environments that would overwhelm most vertebrates, because their internal chemistry balances extreme cold with metabolic restraint. Scientists studying related species have long noted the unusual combination of high urea concentrations and stabilizing molecules that prevent cellular proteins from collapsing under freezing conditions, enabling these sharks to maintain function at temperatures that would immobilize others. This biochemical stability, paired with a remarkably slow metabolic rhythm, allows sleeper sharks to conserve energy across centuries, which explains their ability to thrive in places where food is scarce and conditions rarely change. Its lineage connects closely to the Greenland shark, a species already known for extraordinary longevity. Since radiocarbon testing has revealed individuals older than many historical events taught in classrooms, such lifespans suggest that each shark carries a personal timeline far longer than any human generation, moving through the ocean as a living archive of environmental change. Recent studies uncovered another revealing detail. These long-lived sharks often accumulate microplastics, metal fragments, and chemical residues that drift through deep currents, meaning their bodies store physical traces of past centuries, including signatures of industrial growth, wartime debris, and shifting pollution patterns. The animal film near Antarctica may therefore hold evidence of human history embedded within its tissues, raising new questions about what its lifespan has allowed it to encounter. This endurance strategy extends to feeding behavior, since sleeper sharks often rely on whale falls, suspended carcasses, and ambush opportunities rather than active pursuit, an approach that conserves energy while still allowing them to maintain substantial size. Their quiet movement through the darkness makes them appear almost spectral, yet every adaptation reflects a deliberate evolutionary solution. As researchers examined the footage, they recognized that understanding this shark required more than cataloging traits. It required acknowledging that such predators challenge long-held assumptions about where large, cold-blooded animals can exist, rewriting the megalodon we thought we knew. The presence of a massive sleeper shark in Antarctic waters invited comparisons to another giant that once commanded the oceans, because understanding one predator's adaptations can illuminate the evolutionary extremes of another. For decades, Megalodon was portrayed as a bulkier version of the modern great white, an interpretation reinforced by popular media that favored dramatic impact over anatomical precision. However, recent paleobiological work led by researchers such as Dr. Kenshu Shimada has challenged this image, since detailed examinations of vertebral geometry and growth patterns indicate a body far more streamlined than previously imagined. Instead of a stocky barrel shape, the ancient predator likely possessed a long, slender form, similar to some high-speed mako sharks, which would have allowed it to travel immense distances while conserving energy. This reinterpretation reshaped scientific understanding of how Megalodon hunted, because a more hydrodynamic frame suggests a lifestyle centered on endurance cruising rather than explosive ambush strikes. Such efficiency would have enabled the species to follow migrating whale populations across entire ocean basins, creating a predator that governed not just isolated regions, but entire hemispheric ecosystems. Another striking insight concerns Megalodon's reproductive strategy, since evidence points to intrauterine cannibalism that produced exceptionally large newborns already capable of competing with smaller sharks. This early advantage ensured that only the strongest survived to birth, reflecting a level of selective pressure rarely seen in modern marine animals. When researchers compared these revelations to the Antarctic sleeper shark, they recognized that both species relied on finely tuned biological strategies, although they evolved for entirely different ecological challenges. Megalodon mastered speed and scale to dominate warm oceans, while sleeper sharks embrace slowness and endurance to persist in the darkness. The contrast between these predators highlighted the ocean's capacity to generate survival solutions across an astonishing range of conditions, setting the stage for deeper questions about how shifting climates may shape future marine giants. The hidden corridors beneath Antarctica. As researchers reviewed the footage and environmental data surrounding the sighting, they realized the shark's presence could not be explained by simple resilience alone, because the surrounding temperatures should have pushed even the most cold-tolerant species beyond their limits. This led them to examine the region's water column more closely, where they identified a pattern that oceanographers had observed in scattered studies, but never connected to large predator movement. The Southern Ocean contains stratified layers that behave almost like a submerged staircase, with thin bands of comparatively warmer water trapped between dense, near-freezing layers above and below, creating narrow passageways that shift with seasons, currents, and wind-driven mixing. These hidden corridors form an aquatic landscape far more intricate than earlier models suggested, because they allow animals to navigate temperature gradients without entering lethal zones, effectively giving certain species access to regions once assumed entirely isolated. If a sleeper shark could locate and follow these thermal seams, it might travel across vast distances while remaining within tolerable conditions, which would explain how such a large predator reached the Antarctic shelf without contradicting known physiological limits. Scientists began to consider whether similar pathways existed elsewhere, and whether other deep-sea species had already used them to alter their historical ranges in ways that remain undocumented. The discovery implied that the ocean is not a static barrier defined only by latitude and temperature, but a dynamic system of concealed routes that expand or contract with changing climate conditions. As warming trends alter global circulation patterns, these corridors may widen, shift, or intersect in unexpected ways, raising important questions about which species might eventually explore territories once thought unreachable. What the discovery means for the future. The appearance of a sleeper shark in Antarctic waters forced scientists to reconsider long-standing assumptions about how climate, biology, and deep ocean geography interact, because it demonstrated that even the coldest regions on Earth may not be as isolated as previously believed. If thermal corridors can guide large predators into new habitats, then the boundaries that once shaped marine ecosystems may shift in ways that complicate conservation planning and species monitoring. Researchers now face the challenge of understanding whether this shark represents an overlooked resident that has existed undetected for centuries, or an early sign of warming-driven migration that could reshape food webs across the Southern Ocean. This uncertainty extends beyond academic curiosity, since changes in predator distribution can influence scavenger networks, nutrient cycles, and the behavior of species already under stress from shifting temperatures. The sleeper shark's presence highlights how little is known about the deeper layers of the world's oceans, where vast stretches remain unobserved and poorly mapped, despite advances in technology. As scientists continue to analyze data from the sighting, they recognize that each new discovery has the potential to alter models that once seemed reliable. The question now is how many other assumptions are poised to be rewritten as exploration pushes farther into the unknown. The shark's arrival in Antarctic waters showed how quickly the ocean can overturn everything we think we know, revealing a world still full of hidden forces and unanswered questions. If discoveries like this inspire you, stay curious by liking the video, subscribing, and sharing it with others who love exploring the unknown.